Legends, we're here for our buy, hold, sell for Supercoach in round 5, and I'm very, very optimistic about how this week's going to go. Looks like we'll get a little bit more fair weather footy, and it was crazy to see actually the amount of tons across the first 4 rounds, and it was over 10, sort of that 11, 12, 13 mark in the first 3 rounds there, and there was only 3 or 4 last week. And thankfully, I was an owner of a couple of those guys, and Jack Cole was another who's basically unowned in Supercoach. And let's get into some of the guys that you might potentially be looking at this week. And we're going to go, as we do, from top to bottom, hookers all the way down to that fullback position. And there's plenty of different ways you can go about this week. And if you're sitting there with that hooker combination of Starling and Mamzellis, like myself, you're sitting pretty happy with that. And Starling's break-even does increase a little bit off the back of a couple of lower scores. We'll see how he goes this week against the Sharkies, because it's very unlikely that he makes a lot of cash this week unless he happens to have one of those spectacular games that we saw from him 3 weeks ago now where he got that ton. So he's definitely on the watch list as someone we may need to move on eventually. But I don't think that Starling's going to be someone that hits you like a 20, 30 or 40 and really kills those cash gains. I think we've made the 144 on him. It's going to get to a point where you may have find someone that you could upgrade to, but I don't think he's going to hurt us and start losing too much cash past where he is closer to that 500k mark right now. So I think you can stick solid with him. Some people have bought into Wade Egan, and with him having the bye this week, that's a guy that you can easily hold. Corey Pakes is at 332k, and that try on the weekend helped him up for 100k in gains now, which is very good. Guys like McInnes, I think, in that hooking position will be pretty stock standard around that sort of 60 average where he is right now, with some games like this where he tackles his butt off, and then other games where he hits sort of in those low 50s and he's fine there. Platt has already scored a couple of tries too, so I don't expect that to happen on a regular basis. And looking at other hookers, it's Connor Watson with his 62.7 average with that injury to his melon, where he should be somewhere in that mid 60s as well, and someone to look at longer term. I don't think you really trade in this hooker slot right now because you've got Pakes, you've got Mamzellis, you've got Sandon Smith, you've got Starling there as well as easy guys to hold. And if you do own someone like Harry Grant, then that 70 this week really helps with his cash drops, and he was to 645 now, so he's not too different to a lot of these guys price wise, and he's still likely to be the best hooker going forward. So stick solid with your hooking slot most likely. Your front row forward is probably your best position right now. Well, it is for me anyway, with Payne Haas, Nafahu White, and Terrell May, and then have Tino and Horsburgh in my second row forward. So let's have a look at some of those guys, those players there. And Nafahu White at 497, is he actually a buy or is he just a hold right now? With the negative 11 break even and the way he's playing, I actually see him as a pretty solid purchase this week still. At under 500k, there's still somewhere near the 100k in gains to make, in my opinion, with the dual position for a guy that should be pretty helpful over Origin as well. I think you can easily hold him through that time and play him in those major buy rounds where they miss games in 10, I think 14, 17, somewhere around that mark is their 3 buys that they do have. So that part's a little bit annoying, but then they do play on the other side of it. But there's that avenue where you could look to hold him longer term. There's also the avenue of just making his 100k or so, helping out for the next few weeks, probably in second row forward or between the two, and he can do a good job for you. So it's probably an interesting thought around him. Guys like Horsburgh, I think, are really, really solid holds. Tino, you could potentially buy still after his first price rise, gets into 598. Like, it's a good jump of 67k, but we know that he can be a 700k plus player, and under 600k is still a really, really solid purchase. But continuing to look at the front row forward position, they are a couple of top guys. And then Adam Finnell-Blake at 666, he's down 40 for the year and has just scored that 1 try. So it's good to see him do that in base on the weekend for that 78. And he's still averaging 69 and is one of the best scorers in this position. You look at Corey Horsburgh, and if you still don't own him for some reason, he's 64% owned. Make sure you do own him. And I saw Whisperer mention, maybe he's a guy that we could look to sell on the back of making 60k and having a break even of 28. I'm not sure about that one. I do understand it was before his jump in. I think it was 52 and he jumped to 65, but he's someone under 500k, similar to Nafahu White. they're averaging very, very similar. So there's not much of a world where he's a sell, and guys like Lindsay Smith are playing incredible football as well. But at 571k now, he's a hard purchase, and there's a few of these other guys that are potentially better. But when you scroll down the total points ladder there's even guys like Toby Couchman had less minutes on the weekend, but I think he is a guy that should increase those a little bit more and get back to that mid to high 50s. But when you do look at front row forward, you do need to try and look at some upside. Buying Couchman last week was an okay play, but the chances of him going bonkers, he'd need to score a try, and I think or have an assist, and it seems unlikely at this point that that's where he's going to be going. So when you're looking at 60s on a regular basis, his cash gains aren't going to be crazy. You're not going to miss out by not owning him. So that's where I think if you've missed him now and didn't get him for his first rise, if it was only 22k and that 46, then you hold off on guys like him. Joe Tarpany will be an interesting guy at some point. If you do own Emre Gula, it's 360k now. It's a similar situation with that 35 and missing some games to someone like Kobe Hetherington, who's an easy sell this week. And therefore, Gula, you could keep him in your side for now. He's definitely not a priority trade out, but is someone that isn't going to help you too much now that he's had that lower score and now he has that lower score in his rolling average. Looking down the line now, you're looking at guys that have lower averages and aren't too exciting, and guys like Stefano down 45k now. I definitely would look to sell him. It's still a good enough amount of cash to get something out of it, and thankfully I'm in a position myself where the players in front row forward that I own, those 5 guys are probably the 5 best that you'd want in your side right now. So super happy with that, and is something that you guys should be looking at yourselves. Speaking of good options, Jacob Preston, would you buy him this week? That's probably the big question. I think you could definitely wait until round 7. He will still have that 122 in his rolling average. The break-even's 25, so he'll go up this week. Hopefully no injury to him, and he gets past that 25 and at least hits that 67 that he's projected for. But he's definitely someone you could wait a week on, to be honest with you, and decide from there. And guys like Nicholson, where you need a little bit more on the attacking stats side after his purchase, the purchase of him this week. He has scored a couple of lower ones and now has a break-even of 32. So we need him to get a nice score and hopefully some type of attacking stat to make his price go in the right direction. Otherwise, he's going to be a guy that potentially becomes a sell later down the track, closer, hopefully, to the 500k mark and not closer to the 450, because that would be a little bit frustrating if that's where it ended up. Now, I think we're going to go on averages for second row forward, because there are a couple of guys that I think are of interest, and there's one that's really standing out to me as a great buy this week that I'm probably going to replace Tommy Turbo with. So let's see if you can work it out. Thomas Kant, you can easily wait one more week with him. I also think if you need to free up some cash this week, you probably got Jenkins down in centre wing. But Thomas Kant is the other guy that you could select, and he isn't going to change in price this week, whereas Jenkins is. But in a second row forward position, looking at mine there, I've got Charlie Geimer, who did play on the weekend, but has had a couple of low scores. Hubner should make some cash this week, which is awesome. And Nicholson could eventually be a sell, and maybe it's after this week. Maybe Geimer goes to Thomas Kant next week. These are a couple of things to think of, and depending on who I sell and how much cash I've got available, I think will help determine that decision. But he's a guy you could go this week, you could easily wait, and I'm personally thinking I'm going to wait on that one. Tino, a really good one to have here. You see there are a couple of best scorers in Kickout and Lucas, unfortunately not available, but the guy on my lips right now is Eli Katoa. He's had 3 really consistent, strong games, 2 with tries and 1 with try assists, and this is where it works for Eli Katoa. He's had a couple of years now where he's been well involved in their attack, and he scored a lot of tries last year. And for this year so far, it's been mainly off kicks, and their run coming up is absolutely beautiful. For a team that's had a bit of an awkward start, they had Parramatta where they dominated him. He got the 10-minute early mark. He scored a 77 against Panthers and had a 77 against the Dragons as well. And when you actually look at those stats broken down, his tackle numbers are fine there. He had good tackle break numbers in that first game. Picked up a try in both of those. A try assist last week. He had good offloads last week. 1 line break in the first one and a line break assist in each of the last 2. Run meters, run points are really solid as well, sitting in that, he's got 18, 20, and 12 across the first few weeks. But looking forward, he's got Burbo on that left-hand side. He's up against like Kurt Capewell in the next one. Then the Dolphins one, he's going to be up against likely like a Tom Gilbert, so there should be some missed tackles there, as we've seen. Then it's, South the following week. Colamatungi will be a fun one, but none of these games scream really tough, to be honest. It's Canberra, then Tigers, Sharks. He doesn't play Origin. I think I'm probably going to buy Eli Katoa now and just hold him for the whole season. And it end up in a similar boat last year. I bought him fairly early on. I'll have to check back on the history there, but I think it was within that first 5 rounds, and I was able to ride his really solid scoring for the entirety of the year. And I think that's going to be the plan for me again this year as my easy replacement for Tommy. So Eli Katoa, the standout buy of the week for me and my situation, but you might be a little bit different in what you need this week and the decisions you need to make. I personally have Ponga and Gutherson already, so I don't know if I need or want another fullback right now, unless we're looking at a Tedesco or something like that. And at the moment, I think Ellie might be my play and use some of the cash gains that I'm making in centre wing to potentially buy another fullback down the line. We'll see how we go on that one, but that's my thoughts there. And then Preston's gone to 71 average, which is great. And Ola Kawatu down 17.2k this week. And in a 3-game average of 63 isn't anything spectacular, but we know he can have a good run. I just find it difficult for him to have that terrific run against, Melbourne Panthers and the like that they play Cronulla in the next bunch of weeks. We might be able to get him, if things go correctly for non-owners, we might be able to get him near 600k and in a really good opportunity for us. But we'll see. Both for a solid start for him, 66 average. He's fine. Angus Crichton is the other guy that you should be looking at. They have a pretty tough little stretch of games here, but that 78 is back on target for him. They do come up against some tougher opponents, like I said, Broncos back into Panthers again. And look, he's fairly fixture proof, and that's like most of the guns there. You saw with Eli Katoa's scores, very similar to that there. Managed to score well against the Panthers in that second round clash, but they were, I think was that when Cleary went down? No, the following week was. But anyway, they lost someone in that game, which marred it. But yeah, Crichton a really good one to have a look at. Hudson Young, let's watch him now. He's had that low score of 42. I think he'll have a good stretch of games at some point. So if we can get him under 600k, which I think is a chance, if he has one more low score, he'll get under that 600 very, very quickly. Guys like Isaiah Yeo should be on our watch list as well. If you end up with Seyfarth, I sold him after that first couple of games, and that was it's been tough viewing the last 2. And congrats to him for having 2 good scores, but it allowed me to improve and make some moves up top in this section with Payne Haas. So not the end of the world there. And yeah, that's probably the majority that you need to look at in that second row forward position. Hopgood could easily hold, yes. If you wanted someone in the mid-range, I think Siwa Wong, it looks like he's got that spot pretty comfortably now. A 3-round average of 62, mainly in base, and if any attacking stat comes along, he'll be a really good purchase. So if you need a mid-ranger, 423 for Siwa Wong is a great one to have. But do you need to trade dramatically this week with all our guys returning as well? That's a question you need to ask. Fafita's had his first price drop, averaging 51 across the first 3, and will continue to go down for a little bit longer. So I'm personally got him on my watch list, and we'll see how that one plays out. If you do need a cheapie this week in second row forward that will make money, then it is going to be Lockie Hubner, and we can wait for Dylan Egan the following week. But we saw how well that worked out for the poor Hamish Stewart there. So that's the second row forward. It's a pretty fun position. Lots can be done in that one there. Let's go to halfback, guys. And if you aren't following along my videos, please hit the notification bell so you know when a video pops up. And some will be Supercoach, that will be clearly stated, and then some will be fantasy there. So if you're playing both, awesome. If you're just here for Supercoach stuff, let me know in the comments. If you're just here for SC, I appreciate that. And we're having a solid season, and we'll continue to improve, I think, each and every year as we're trying to do this stuff more full time with Supercoach as well, putting in just as much time as I do with fantasy, and I hope that comes across in this video for the podcast for the halfbacks there. DCE averaging 81. What a start for him. For 43 last game, comes up into that harder bracket of games. So he's an easy one to leave out now. Reynolds, if you haven't bought so far, leave him out now as well. And hopefully he can score well for those that did buy after his 27. Nico Hines, 60 last week, averaging 78 for the season. They have a bit of a harder little setup as well, and I think he's a guy that you could easily leave for now, and hopefully as a Cleary owner myself that he can score much better than where Hines is at the moment. Clifford with 2 really nice games, but it was 2 tries on the weekend for his 99. That won't happen regularly, and they've got a really tough little setup into their bye as well. Isaiah Katoa has had a fun little run. I think just holding him is completely fine. Fogarty, if you're in the same boat, you can hold him. Humphreys, we'll have to see if he loses the goal kicking, and if he does, then I think his days in your sides are a little bit numbered. But 135k if you bought 2 weeks ago, it was awesome. Luke Metcalf, you can look at selling as well. This week you can wait a little bit longer, but a nice 43.9 thousand in gains there after a fun few weeks with that big ton in his rolling average. Sandon Smith at 57 gives him another bit of time in our squads, and the break even's 30, so it's not nothing crazy bad or good either side. And then moving down from there, there's not too much else to see apart from the great Cleary, who I think should play really well this week. He seems to play awesome against the Cowboys, and I'm looking forward to that again. For the 5/8s, you got Brimo and Campbell in my side, and Brimson is the one I don't want to hold longer term, but against the Dolphins, I think we can easily keep track of him this week and then work it out from there. Munster is someone to look at, but even he isn't scoring great since that first one against the Parramatta Eels, and they've got Manly this week, which won't be too easy at all. We'll have Blaze Solangi up there with his 1 game 63 average. This position's pretty poor, so look at the scoring right now, and 2 guys above 70, and they're the 2 guys you want. Outside of that, Chanel Harris-Tavita's been the one that's been really good, and I think you hold on to him if you do own. I wouldn't be mucking around making decisions in this 5/8 slot. I had Burton, so that's sad, him getting injured there. I'll potentially want him back once he drops a little bit of cash, especially as the team is playing really well. Guys like Trindle, low one there, he has them in his game. Dylan Brown, averaging 56. He's fine. If we do happen to get Moses back soon, then he's going to be a really cool guy to have, I think, at a cheaper price. So at 589 now, the position's not great. Do you just hold? Probably. Adam Dewey, don't know or how long he's going to be out for. So yeah, it's a weird one with him. Who do you trade to though? I think you have to build up some cash to go to one of the top guys. And that's the same with Metcalf. Do you just hold on for a week or so? Brimson, like myself, down 32k. Do we just hold off and see how things play out in this 5/8 slot? That's probably the way to go there. All right, centre wings. We mentioned there Jenkins is the guy to potentially to definitely look at buying, given his ridiculously low break even and 2 awesome scores. Arthurs is getting closer to a trade out territory, given his price, and we see these situations happen often. Guys make plenty of cash, they have a couple of low scores, and they start to lose a lot of it. And we know Arthur's history is not a good Supercoach scorer, so at 502k, he's closer to the chopping block than I think others should be. You've got Toya, who isn't scoring perfectly well, 300k now. Jackson Purdue, still a negative break even, given he's done really well. But Toya, is he a game away from going big? Potentially. So that's where you could hold off. But if the news is true about, I am making this just before team list, to be honest, guys, just to make tomorrow, or today, Wednesday, a little bit easier for me with videos. So I haven't got the team list out yet, but if Latrell's actually named as centre up against Toya, that could be a tough one, and I'll be slotting Marzu in straight for Rob Toya there in that one, but we'll see how it plays out. The guys you want to look at, Shibasaki, if you don't own, I think is still, you're going to get at least a couple more price rises out of him. He's got like a negative 50 break even, which is crazy. So yeah, have a look at him. Tupulotu, if you didn't grab last week, I think you hold off now. It should be a fun little run, but not one you should be super excited about now. That 1 week too late and getting expensive now for a guy that sometimes doesn't get involved if the game doesn't allow it, as we saw in the wet. Ruben Garrick is 781. They do have a tough schedule coming up, but is he a guy that you can just hold? I think for now, definitely. See how things play out over the next bunch of weeks. But if it gets tough, than I do understand, but it just feels like he's just a season-long hold as long as he's fit and in a really good team in Manly. They'll have games that against tough opponents that will still at least be close, you'd imagine. Iro, unfortunately, looks like he'll have to be a sell. He's absolutely crushed it. And imagine going Iro down to Jenkins at 215. That frees up some cabbage for sure. But an 80 average. And if you put Jenkins in, he's got a negative 94 break even, which is absolutely wild. So keep an eye out on him there. There we go, delete. Beautiful. As a guy that you do want on your side. And I think you can play him this week against the Cowboys over on that left-hand side against, Vailea and guys like Clifford, for sure. But Shibasaki, a definite priority, along with the great Jenkins as well. The other two guys to focus on, you can see here there's not a clear lot of guys absolutely dominating. We've got the guys like Herbie and Lomax that are in really good positions, averaging well. We've got Herbie at 69. You've got Lomax up there and somewhere in the 60s as well. Did I go past him? Probably. Where is he? Did I? We'll check that. Lomax. Where is he? 740, averaging 66. Yeah, I must just roll past him to send. Yeah, so he's those guys are doing well without going nuts. And I do think Herbie is very, very close to, he should have scored a big 100 on the weekend, but was very close to scoring that first try and almost got another one, and assists and all the rest. So he's someone on my watch list that I want to upgrade to him very, very quickly, averaging 69 without a try so far. So a great scorer. There he is. Lomax not far under. Along with Lomax there, if they can start to play a little bit better, guys like Lomax and Herbie, they'll be straight in our sides very, very quickly. I suspect Nwangani Tuaze should have another good game. He's actually averaging 65 now and up 86k. So congrats to anyone who has started with him. He's getting some assists and some contributions and scored a try on the weekend and did some great work. Lehigh Hopewadi is a fun one this week, a fun pick, but they do have a tough draw. So if you need another fullback, if you want Lehigh in your centre wing, then I think that can work really well for you. Definitely. But his price is a little bit awkward and that draw is a little bit tough. So I think he should score well, but I don't think he will blow any of us away with the crazy type of scoring that we know he can produce. And Val Holmes, a 60 average right now. Keep an eye on him. He's 50k down and he'll go down that little bit more unless he has some cracker weeks. Guys like Tamale, is he a play this week against the Sharks? I'm not sure, but he's averaging 59 and doing a cracking job. Stafford Toa, up 67k. He's averaging 57, so it's not crazy. Scored a try on the weekend, just picked up the 65, and I'd probably leave him out at 355, to be honest. Then you've got guys like Howarth. I think he's going to have some bigger weeks, but last week was not the one in the wet there. So yeah, I think he'll break out at some point, and I'll try and be ready in that mid 400s to have a crack at that one. And then if you are trading Turbo in the fullback slot, do you buy Gutho this week? It feels a bit hard at 754 for someone who's definitely not the best fullback in the game. That's where looking at guys like Tedesco really fits the bill. I did miss out on talking about Fletcher Sharp averaging 73 in the center wing. I think he's a really fun pick and will definitely be a slight point of difference play. Definitely not as much of a point of difference as Tedesco or Campbell, but I think that, I think he's owned by more of the masses than some of the... I'm so surprised at Teddy so low for how good he is, and same with Drinkwater down there. But I think Fletcher Sharp's a really fun one that you can move between fullback and centre wing, averaging 73, should continue to do well, but they have not such an easy little run. Tedesco's the fun one, but again, it gets harder for them. Do you go for Pappenhausen at 675? Potentially. Their run is pretty nice over the next few months, like I spoke about with Eli Katoa, so have a look at him. Does he take the goal kicking back? I'm not sure. And then Ponga. Do you go for him? He's 43% owned. I personally do. And I can see this week being not so easy for him. So you can pick him this week and just go, well, I'm picking him for the longer term and it's sweet. Or you can hold off as well. But who do you trade Turbo to? Is it to Lehigh Hopewadi? Is it to Latrell Mitchell and these types of guys? Is it to Reece Walsh down at 606k? There's a few different guys you can look at. But there's less than you probably think. Drinkwater probably wouldn't go for with their little draw, and Panthers this week into the buy in a couple of weeks. You could buy Campbell and be able to move him around, use that cash down there for now, and then do some flexible things. Thank you, Flex. But yeah, There's a bunch of different options. None of them are clear standouts to me this week, and I think it's probably personal preference. And if you want to go a bit more of the point of difference route, or you want to go for the bigger percentage guys in Ponga, in Pappenhausen, in Gutho, guys like that. So let me know what you thought of that video, guys, if that helped you. It was a little bit longer than normal. I'm enjoying doing the Supercoach content. There's so many different ways you can go about it. The price changes go up and down very dramatically, and it's good fun that way. So thanks for tuning in for this one. As I said, let me know if this is the only type of video you watch from me is the Supercoach stuff. If it is, big thank you. And go and check out the Instagram and TikTok as well for some of the shorter content, short and sharp on different guys, and I'm enjoying that as well. Looking to grow those platforms. So thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.